can sometimes feel like a lot, but you don't have to do it alone. I strongly believe that we're stronger together. Here, we're going to slow down, have real talks, make sense of things together, and explore ways to intentionally grow the life you want. We're going to talk about mental and physical health, relationships, money, work, and community. Welcome to Rooted in Intention with me, Karina Gomez. Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to another episode. Today, we're going to be talking all about habits and the neuroscience behind how we can start them and how we can actually keep them. And I'm joined by a special guest, Olga Justiniano, who is a neuroscience and leadership coach. And thank you, Olga, so much for joining me today.
You're
And
welcome.
to get us started, can you share a little bit about your story and what inspired you? What sparked you to become a neuroscience and leadership coach?
That's a great question. So my story is very personal. I think this is going to be the first time some of this information is coming out that not even my family knows. But
Wow.
when I was right out of college with my undergrad degree, I experienced all that I didn't want to be in a leader. So that prompted me to go back to do my master's degree in organizational leadership. And later, I encountered so many difficult situations in my life that gave me seasonal depression. So I remember back in 2019, just taking my lunch break to go cry at my car for a whole hour.
Mm.
Yeah, that bad it was. So I will go back to my desk after cry for a whole hour, just like nothing had happened. So which means I was pushing through the pain and praying to God every day that I will see the change in my life, that He will make me overcome that feeling of failure. So I even remember not recognizing myself. It was like kind of like going through identity crisis at that moment. But one day, a dear friend of mine sent me a video titled "The Battle of the Mind." And even though I had heard about, you know, the major battle of the life starts in the mind, I don't think it had landed so close to my heart until that moment. Since that day, I have come to understand that the majority of my feelings and behaviors are controlled by my thoughts rather than the outside world around me. And that's when my passion for understanding how the brain and everything that is related to it works started. But back then, I didn't knew about there was a science that studied the brain and the nervous system, but I knew deep in my heart that I needed to understand and learn more about it. So I started doing deep research about it and discovered there was this thing called neuroscience. And then I realized that many of the things that were actually making me depressed and destroying me from the inside out were just creation of my mind.
Mhm.
Whatever I fed my thoughts, they were directing my emotions, and my emotions were directing the situations outside in my life. So I began my process of renewing my mind, which is called neuroplasticity in neuroscience. And one of the things that I applied every day back then was renewing my mind to God's word, because I'm a woman of faith as well.
Mhm.
And simple tools like, visualization, breathing correctly, taking the time to rest, simple stuff like that are neuroscience-based tools that you can use to rewire your brain. So today, as a certified neuroscience and leadership coach, and a woman of faith, as I mentioned before, I can say this with confidence. It is possible to come out of the tunnel if you are in one right now. It is possible to heal. You can reprogram your mind and you can become the person that God intended it to be.
Such a great story. And I don't know if there's any neuroscience behind this, but I really think that pain and curiosity are such great motivators to kind of jump into things. So,
Yeah.
kind of heard quite a little bit of that.
Yes, because the thing about pain is that it's not all wrong and all positive, because pain is telling your body that there's something that needs attention. The not positive part about the pain is that if you stay in it, for instance, if you put your hand at the stove, you need to feel pain in order for you to take your hand out of the fire. But
Mhm.
if you stay there, you're gonna get burned. It's the
Mhm.
same thing with real life situations. Like you need to feel that pain in order for you to pay attention. Like, okay, something's going on, but now I need to fix it.
Can you explain to me, as if I was a complete newbie, had never heard about neuroscience, what is neuroscience?
Yeah, because I know it's a fancy word. Even when I started looking into that, I was like, is this a real science or something someone just, decided to mention and make it viral? But no, yes, it's the science of the brain. It studied the brain and the nervous system and how that affects your behavior, your habits, the way you react, the way you move in society. So I specialize in applied neuroscience, which aims to translate the scientific discoveries about the brain into tangible interventions for and to enhance human functions.
Thank you for helping break that down. And I know a lot of people, myself included, oftentimes think about starting habits or do
Mhm,
start habits and then sometimes have a hard time with them sticking. Can you share a
mhm.
little bit about what the neuroscience says about how we can make habits actually stick?
Yeah. So your brain creates habits by repeating the same actions until it becomes automatic. So imagine this role that you create and you do the construction, you need to do it every day in order for it to be completed. So this frees up mental energy for other things. So one simple way to see it is that you pick one tiny habit. It has to be as so tiny that it's impossible for you to fail. You do it over and over again, and then you need to celebrate. A lot of people are skipping on this step, and it's very
Mm,
important because you need the dopamine bump on your brain. Your brain needs to understand there's something good happening. The dopamine that we get when we're scrolling on our phone,
mhm.
that's an that's a feeling that you need to give yourself once you finalize that tiny habit. So that way you start creating new pathways on your brain and you need to sleep on it. And then your brain, start working on that. And then the next day it becomes easier for you to continue on that habit creation.
That makes so much sense of just celebrating because, yeah, that's exactly what we get from social media. And I think of myself when I've tried incorporating more like exercise into my life, and I kind of had to sometimes step back when I didn't have the energy and think of it like, how can I introduce movement into my day? Like
Mhm.
a minimum baseline. And then once I did that, just doing like a little happy dance of like, yes, I did
Yes,
that.
I
And
did it. Yeah.
yeah, you feel good of like, okay, I accomplished something. And then I feel like that helps you build that momentum.
Yes, that's exactly how it works.
Yeah. And can you share a little bit more about the role of motivation and discipline? Because I feel like those things are oftentimes talked about in relation to habits. Like you have to have motivation and you have to have discipline.
Yeah, a lot of those, words are actually pushed through. They are defined as you need to push through the pain, you need to do it, you need to force yourself. And that's how you end up not following through because your brain is avoiding that uncomfortable feeling. So what you need to do is you need to decide how small you're going to start. That's the best way to make it last. You can start small. Okay, I'm going to start working out on Monday, but you can start journaling on Monday as well. You can start meditating on Monday as well.
Mm.
So you need to make it as simple as possible. Like I mentioned before, so tiny that it will be impossible for you to fail. So you want to do an hour exercise a day. What about starting at 10 minutes exercise section? And another thing for you to be successful at this is to include it in your regular patterns that you already have. So your regular life. Let's say you want to start drinking more water. How do you do that? You pour your coffee in the morning and you make the declaration that you're going to drink water before you drink that first cup of coffee in the morning. And you celebrate. Okay, I did it. I got my first cup of water in the morning. And then you continue to, deciding when during the day you're going to start applying that new habit. And then your brain doesn't get confused, doesn't get angry. because the brain is lazy. So it will try to always take the path that it already knows. And it's more for survival instance because it's trying to serve you energy. So if it already knows this path, I go to sleep at midnight, it's going to try to do the same thing every single day. So how do you break that? You start creating small habits, including them slowly in your current routine, and you will be more successful that way.
And in your work, what do you see are some of the common mistakes that people do? What are some of the challenges that you see either with people that you've worked with
Mhm.
or within the research?
So the first one is to be way too ambitious, like trying to do everything at once, especially for New Year's. People try to create this huge list of things they want to accomplish by the end of January, and that's
Guilty.
impossible.
I've been there.
Yeah, you got to be realistic. And that's the thing about neuroscience. That's what I love about it. Like how to incorporate those small habits that are transformational. Because don't get me wrong, they are small, but transformational, very powerful. But you still, feeling well, feeling good, feeling motivated because you don't have to push through the pain, through the fire, and you can still be successful. Another mistake that people do is that if they miss one day, they'll just, throw everything to the garbage, all the effort, all the time they have already invested. So you miss one day, you continue the next day, or you miss the morning, you'll continue in the afternoon.
And what other skills or practices from neuroscience can people utilize to help with habits?
Yeah. So making it small is the first one, and then stacking up on the assistant routine that you have. As I mentioned before, like if you want to start doing, let's say, meditation, you can include that while brushing your teeth. So it will
Mhm.
become automatic for you. So you brush your teeth and you're gonna do probably 10 seconds of breathing exercise, and that's count as meditation as well. And then you can increase by 10 seconds, more 20 seconds, 30 seconds. By the time you finish the week, you might be able to complete probably 5 minutes of meditation. And that will be a huge thing, starting
Mhm.
from point zero.
Mhm.
Um, Celebrating immediately after you finalize that task. You need to celebrate as if you won the lottery. The bigger the celebration, the better for the brain, because you'll just saying you accomplishing big things for yourself.
I'm curious what some of the habits are that you work with people as a leadership coach, with people in the workplace. What does that look like?
Yeah, so that will mean creating the habit of not being in autopilot. That will be mindfulness and also making sure that you are feeling the sensation of your body. So, for instance, there are a lot of saboteurs. They live on the right side of your brain, and the sage part of the brain is the left side of your brain. So, for you to activate that, you need to practice mindfulness and you need to
Mhm.
practice being present. Some of the exercises are just breathing in and out, 4 seconds in, 4 seconds holding your breath, and 4 seconds out. It relaxes a lot. Another technique is for you to start feeling the sensation of your hands. You're rubbing your hands and you're feeling, you focus your mind on the sensation of your hands, how it feels, you know, even if you have any jewelry, you can start touching it, looking at it, and that will take you out of the negative thoughts that you may be encountering, probably in difficult situations, like having to take a huge decision with the team or having to go through difficult situations with difficult employees. That will take you out of your mind and push you more into the understanding your role as a leader, and that will allow you to react from a better position. Another thing that I teach a lot is recognizing negative thoughts that are making you act impulsive.
Mhm.
And once you do that recognition, that will be the first step. And then you need to celebrate that as well. So you go like, okay, you are a perfectionist. It's good when you are paying attention to details, but when you're trying to control everything around you and how everything's coming up, it's not going to give you peace. So the first step to switch to the left side of your brain will be to realize that you're coming from a perfectionist point of view, and then you celebrate that.
Would you be able to tell me a little bit more about procrastination?
It's actually your brain avoiding the difficult situations. It's something that is unknown for it and it doesn't want to do it. That's why you react like that. It's not being lazy at all. It's your brain avoiding discomfort. So The way I handle this is in three moves. First, calm myself. I try to breathe in, breathe out for 30 seconds so I can make a clear decision of how I'm going to move next. So I make a tiny task decision. Okay, I'm going to start writing for my newsletter, but the first thing that I'm going to do is that I'm going to open up my laptop and
Mm,
I'm going to write 5 sentences, right? And then I celebrate. It's always the same process. If you test that, you're going to see, oh my God, this is huge. It works all the time. So you start small, you make the decision that you're going to do it. It's good if you say it out loud for yourself and for your brains also to hear it. And then you celebrate and you stop. Okay, I was able to write 5 sentences. This is good enough. If you are a perfectionist like me, you need to use the 20-80 rule. 20% has to be perfect, yes. 80% good enough is good enough.
okay. It becomes about like really prioritizing what are the important things that I want to make sure the details are okay, and then kind of giving yourself that, how do you say, more flexibility to be like,
The
if these things
flexibility
aren't perfect, it's going to be okay.
is
And it seems like
fine.
it's all about redirecting your energy and making efficient use of your energy because
Hmm.
yeah, I don't think perfectionism is necessarily wrong. I think it kind of drives us to create the best that we can create. And I like that practice of doing that 20-80 of
2080.
this isn't completely bad, but let's scale it back a little bit so we could free up some of that like mental energy and not fall into that procrastination trap of trying to perfect
Exactly.
everything.
Yeah, because procrastination is that you're just trying to avoid doing it. You don't want to get tired. It's not actually being lazy, it's just avoidance. And
Mhm.
that's how you do it. You approach it in a tiny way, doable, realistic, and you try to complete it and then you celebrate.
Trying to do a lot more happy dances. I need to
Yeah.
do more celebrations.
Yeah, me
Yeah.
too. I'm learning that too.
One thing that I'm curious about, because in my journey as a female, I have
Hmm.
learned a lot about hormones and especially for people that menstruate, how that just influences how we show up at different stages of our menstrual cycle because of the changing hormones. Is there
Hmm.
anything behind the neuroscience that says that males and females should be doing things differently?
Actually, the rules are the same for habit creations. What's different is the windows, like the timing. For instance, habits wire the same way for everyone. It doesn't matter if it's a female or male. When it comes to hormones changes, that's when it affects the timing. So some women say that they feel higher focus after the period. And for men, it's different. So men often have more morning energy. The tips here will be to plan when you're having those moments of big energy. This actually your body telling you that you can do more. So you
Mm,
plan on doing more when you're feeling that way. Because you'll feel it, you'll feel it. But it will be different for everyone because we are individuals. Sometimes people might say, no, I don't feel anything when I'm on my period, or they'll say, okay, I'm a total mess
yeah.
because I'm in pain, or after that, I don't want to talk to anyone, and that might shift the way you approach habits. But the rules are very similar. I mean, they are the same for everyone, and they are the same every time. That's why maybe you slow down a little bit and create tiniest tags for that week that you're not
Hmm.
feeling too well, and but you still try to do it.
Hmm. And I really like, I guess, what I'm hearing you share is to kind of check in with your own energy levels. And
Mhm.
that's really the approach of
Yeah.
being able to be like, what is my body telling me? Because that's kind of feedback about what you do have capacity for, what you have energy for, and what times of the day might be the best for you to do certain things.
Yes, that's correct. Because I'm very against like push through. I'm not a person that supports that, especially I'm a mom, I'm a solopreneur, I have a family. So I'm trying to accommodate and bring things to my life that make them easier. And I don't
Mhm.
try to bring pain to my life. So yeah, and I'm a big fan of about starting small.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're a parent. I'm curious
Mhm.
how you use neuroscience to kind of help equip your children for success.
Yeah, so my favorite one will be is actually visualization. We do a lot of that, especially in the morning, and affirmations. A lot of people might think that's like a woo thing, but it's not. So it works by you rehearsing in your mind like the outcomes. And something that I found out too is that you don't need to figure out the whole thing, how it's going to happen. You don't need to imagine like the whole thing that you're expecting to happen. You should just start how it's going to start, how I'm going to look, how I'm going to start the conversation with that person if it's a difficult conversation that you need to have. Or if you go into a job interview, you practice responding to the questions that they usually ask, stuff like that. And for me, with my daughter, which is the older one, she's 9, we work a lot on her self-beliefs of like her capabilities and her confidence. So when she's going to take a test, I ask her, okay, you're going to visualize how you're going to sit in the chair, how you're going to hold the pen, how you're going to write the questions. So you're going to see yourself like getting the right answers. And your brain is going to start to believe that you're already taking the test.
Mhm.
And when it comes time, it's going to be like you already did it. It's going to know what to do.
I like that. There's a quote that I read, and it went something like, whether you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're right in
You're
both
both right.
ways.
Yes.
Do you know
Yes.
who said that?
No, no, not really. But yeah, I've heard it before, but I forgot his name. But yeah, that's the way it works because like I mentioned before, your brain doesn't know difference between reality and fiction. So you take advantage of that and you just try to create, those visual images of you winning and you'll
Mhm.
try to recreate. So a good example that I also like to mention a lot is when I got pregnant the first time. I started seeing all these pregnant women everywhere. So your brain is trying to bring to you and make it real what's actually in your mind already.
Mhm.
It's the same thing when you buy a new car. You start to see the car everywhere. It's your
Mhm.
brain telling you, okay, this is your car. Look, it's everywhere. And
Mhm.
it was there before, but that's a lot of people call that like bending reality because it's already happening, but now your brain's going to start bringing it to you so you can actually notice it's happening.
It changes what we're paying attention to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Oh man. You mentioned it a little bit, kind of like it's the woo-woo. And I feel with the neuroscience, it's almost applying the science to some of the woo-woo. And I think it might have actually been you, Olga, that shared a post
Hmm.
about the science or the neuroscience of prayer. Am
Yeah,
I?
it was me. It was
Can you
me.
share a little bit more about
Yeah.
prayer and the neuroscience behind it?
Yeah, so there was actually a study done between people located far away. They didn't know each other, but they knew the study was happening. The findings were that the people that were praying for the sick individuals, they got to see the results. Like the sick patients, they were getting better. The people that were not receiving prayers, they were getting worse. So
Mm.
that was basically like the summary of the study. It's like sending healing energy. We are like energy bodies, and everything affects around us. So that's actually what they try to study, like how we are sending our energy to the world, and that's what prayers does. And God is listening. If you pray for a person, God is listening, and He will respond. And the study proves how the power of prayer works, how you can send prayer for a person that is in China, for instance, and that person is going to receive the healing of the prayer because you prayed for that person. That
Mm.
energy is going to get to that person. But it has a lot to do with believing
Mm.
as well. If you believe it's going to work, it's going to work. And like, as I
Mhm.
mentioned before, like if you believe it's not going to work, it's not going to work. It's the same thing. And the other person too has to believe that the prayer is going to work for them as well.
Yeah, that's interesting because I'm taking coursework around the subconscious mind, and it
Hmm.
ties so closely to the neuroscience that you're talking about, especially around the beliefs. And
Hmm.
I know at the very beginning, you talked a little bit about neuroplasticity.
Yeah.
And for people that might have not heard about this, can you share a little bit more about what is neuroplasticity?
Yes, that's actually the ability of your brain to change. Like it doesn't matter your age, you have the ability to change your brain. That can be seen in images. They do MRIs and they can see how the connections are forming instantly. For the habits creations, I think we are used to hearing that it takes 30 to probably 60 days to create a habit, but it will depend on the complexity of the habit. It might take 2 weeks for you to, for your brain to create a new neural pathway and to adapt to that new habit. So neuroplasticity is very interesting because it shows that your brain changes. It's not fixed. So you have hope. So the people that are telling you, I cannot change, that's not true. You can always change. It just needs practice. It's like going to the gym. Your muscle needs to get some exercise in so your muscle can grow. So it's the same thing with the brain. The brain is like a muscle. You need to practice. The more you practice, the more muscle brain you're going to create, which will allow you to go easier on habits creation, and also it will allow you for your brain to create those new neural pathways, the new roles that you're going to follow automatically. It's just that. And the good thing about that also is that you're always learning. It's good and bad because I consider that very important when it comes to what is that you put in your mind, what is the information you're absorbing, because you are always learning. And it's not like you have unlimited space in your brain. Your brain is going to remove one thing and take another thing. It's like a library, like the library behind me. If you have no more space, it's going to take probably the good things that you have in your mind, and it's going to supplement it with the bad things. You doing a lot of scrolling on social media, consuming garbage, it's going to unfortunately create those new pathways based on that.
I feel like that's so hard because, especially with social media, it's one of those things where you're trying to balance staying informed
Yeah.
and at the same time not be completely overtaken, like you were saying, still being very intentional about how much you're consuming.
Yeah, because it comes back to the dopamine effect that your brain's trying to feel. And that's what scrolling does, because you don't know what's the next video, that surprise reaction that you're
Mm.
trying to get, that recreates dopamine in your brain. You're looking for the next video to see, oh, what's going to come up when I scroll again, when I scroll again and scroll again. And then you find yourself like for 2 hours scrolling, watching nothing, just silly
Mm.
videos.
Oh, what does the
Yeah.
neuroscience say about breaking habits?
The same rule. So to break one habit, you need to create a new one. So like
Mm.
I mentioned before, your brain is always learning. So you have, let's say, limited space, I'll say. It's going to keep it to the front of your mind, the new information that you're receiving, and it's going to, forget about those old pathways. So you're trying to exercise more or not to eat after certain time during the night. You need to start slow, but you want to
Mm.
replace a bad habit with a new habit.
Okay. So keys to habits are starting small,
Start small, repetition,
repetition, celebrating. That's a big
celebrating.
one. I don't think I personally do enough celebrating. Visualization to help support new habits, but maybe also this
Yeah,
like new idea of yourself
yeah,
completing something.
exactly. And
And
resting, we need to rest.
mm,
Yeah, we
yes,
need to prioritize
rest.
resting as well, because sometimes we want to push through, we want to complete the tasks, and resting is more important always. Because
Mm.
if you are not resting, your brain's not it's not gonna function correctly. I gotta tell
Okay.
that myself as well.
I think it's a practice. It's the practice
Yeah.
of resting, especially within, I would
Mhm.
say, our society where we're kind of taught to hustle and
Hustle.
that productivity is important and productivity here, productivity there.
That's true.
Okay. And how do you use neuroscience in your day to day?
I practice a lot of breathing and pausing during the day. I call it like reset. I do probably twice a day so I can stay calm, sane, especially as a mom and support another business, a nonprofit. So I do a lot of stuff during the day. So I try to, come back to myself, be aware of my surroundings, take care of my mind. So I do a lot of breathing exercise, a lot of touching my body or focusing on one thing for a couple of seconds so I can come out of my mind, especially if I'm not feeling right too
Hmm.
well. I do a lot of visualization. That works perfectly for me, especially when I'm trying to get something.
Hmm.
And I combine that with prayer. I prayed a lot during the day. I'm always talking to God, and
Hmm.
that's part of like things that I also apply in order for me to be successful at anything I want. And resting. I'm working a lot right now on, getting the time to rest. especially when you starting something new, you want just to complete it. I used to get mad for being tired. I was that
Hmm.
person. I was like, I wish I wouldn't get tired so I could continue working. But no, that's not right. So I started talking to myself and saying, okay, resting is part of also working because I need my brain to function correctly. I need my brain to give me the right ideas and, to be fresh so
Mhm.
I could do the work that I want to do. And sometimes it's hard because I have a 1 year old. Sometimes it doesn't depend on me because I'm taking care of the baby. But you do your best. You do your best, especially with the breathing, the prayer, the visualization, and the resting.
So I heard a few things that in my mind are very similar because I feel like they kind of calm you resting and breathing exercises. You've been talking
Mhm.
a little bit about them. Can you share a little bit more of, I guess, the like science behind them? Why are they so powerful?
Yeah, because it's physiological, you need to breathe and you need to get a lot of oxygen into your brain. Your brain works with oxygen. And if you are not breathing correctly, you're not getting the amount of oxygen that you need to chemically make your brain works. And that's how you get dizzy, you get extra tired, get sleepy because you are low in oxygen. I remember back in 2020 when we used to use the mask. I remember a person doing like a hot oxygen test after wearing the mask the whole day, and she was
Mhm.
so low on oxygen because she wasn't breathing correctly
What?
by being covered the whole day with a lot of things that she's put on her face. So that's why it's important. It's physiological. You need to do it in order for you to be alive.
I feel like the neuroscience is almost providing the understanding of why some of the things that we intuitively know are
Yeah,
important, like resting and breathing. Like you said, the oxygen is important for our brain.
yeah, we've been doing it like forever, but that's what science does. It demonstrates that we actually need it and why we need it. Like
Mhm.
it lets you know, okay, this is what happens in your body, in your brain when you don't do it.
Mhm.
These are the chemicals or the things that you're missing when you are not doing it.
So I'm curious, what's one of the coolest things you've learned about neuroscience?
For me, it's neuroplasticity. When I found out about that, because I come from a culture that says a lot, oh, I'm old, I don't learn,
Mm,
I can't do that anymore. It's too late for me. But when I was studying about the capability and the ability of the brain to change and to continue learning, it doesn't matter your age or your circumstances, it's always, always learning. It gives you hope. It gives
mm,
you hope that it's not too late for you, that you can start learning a new instrument that you want to start playing. And it's not late. I mean, you can start speaking a new language or running the marathon, like we saw here in New York. It's
mhm.
never too late. Your brain can do that. It's designed to do that. It's designed to change. It's designed to learn. It's designed to create those new pathways. It's perfectly designed for that.
Yeah, that is really cool because I know I've heard my mom say that quite a bit.
Yeah,
Yeah, just
I
like,
think
oh
that's
no,
in the
no.
Latino communities. We say that a lot. Oh, I'm too old already.
Yeah, my mom's just like, oh, like tengo mente de teflón, like todo se le
Sí.
resbala.
Sí.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and that goes hand in hand with the belief system,
Mm.
That has to do a lot with what they believe. And if you believe you can't, you can't.
So, to wrap us up with the habits, are there any other tips that you have for folks about starting them, sticking with
Mhm.
them, or even changing some of the ones that they don't want?
Yeah, I think it will be not confusing habits with goals. I think your goals should be huge, but your habits should be small. And I think that's one of the mistakes a lot of people do. They confuse goals. They say if it's not big enough, it's not worth it. And yes, you can have huge goals, but the compounding of the tiny habits is what's going to take you to the next level.
Mm. Oh, that's great. I haven't heard that before. And I really appreciate differentiating the goals and the habits because it makes me think of the importance of maybe creating enough time with your goals so you don't feel that pressure to
Yeah,
create those big habits because you're sharing how important it is to start small in order for them to be effective. So,
exactly.
really kind of giving yourself that breathing room. Oh,
Mhm,
I
mhm.
like that. Okay. And Olga, for people who might be interested in connecting or in working with you, how can they do that?
On LinkedIn, you can find me by my name, Olga Justiniano. Also, you can subscribe to my Substack, The Chef. And if you want to explore coaching, send me a DM and we can, start the conversation there. I work in English and Spanish, so don't be shy.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Olga, for joining us today. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Remember, if you got at least one thing out of today's episode, go ahead and leave a review and let us know if you want to listen to this in Spanish as well, if you want to share it with someone. Okay, bye.
Thank you for joining me for another episode of Rooted in Intention. Until next time, and remember to keep showing up for the life, relationships, and community you want. Now go, grow the life you want